Summer routines live or die by how easy they are. And honestly, if something takes too much effort, I'm out. That's why Groons is my go-to. It's my one daily pack of gummies covering my greens, vitamins, and minerals. Plus, it has 6 grams of prebiotic fiber, which is more than 2 cups of broccoli. No mixing powders, no giant pills, no hassle. I just rip open the pack and I'm done. They taste good and they make it easy to stay on top of my health, even when life gets busy. Save up to 52% with the code PODCAST at Groons.co. That's code PODCAST at GRUNS.co.
Hi, everybody. This is Dawn Mitchell, and welcome to Dawn of Sports. We have another great show. We continue to talk of the past 2 weeks about impressive women in sports. The Lynx have been playing well. The Aurora are playing well. We talked about PWHL. Well, today we have a guest. It's a returning guest, but now she comes with a lot of hardware. Heather Rule, a freelance sports journalist in town who was just named first place in the Society of Professional Journalists for her sports feature reporting. From Minnesota, a native Minnesotan, and we'll get a little inside ball, or should we say inside puck too, on what went down with PWHL Minnesota. But a lot to talk about coming up with Heather Rule.
Today's guest on Dawn of Sports will be Heather Rule, award-winning journalist, friend of both of ours. Fun talking to her. We already recorded, so I know it's a good interview that Dawn did with her. But let's start off Dawn of Sports here today with the Minnesota Lynx. Now, we're recording on Tuesday morning. They're going to play a big game, the Commissioner's Cup final on Tuesday night. So actually, we can't discuss the specifics of that game. But the fact, Dawn, that the Minnesota Lynx in this season where they entered with nationally very low expectations. They look like a middle-of-the-pack team at best. The fact that they're in the Commissioner's Cup championship with this roster is, again, this is second episode in a row we're praising Cheryl Reeve, but she's earned it. She and Nafisa Collier have positioned this team to contend for a championship in a year where nobody would have expected that.
And they're playing great basketball. You know, it's not like flukes that they're like pulling games out at the last minute. It's how they're winning, Jim. That's really impressive to me. Yes, when they're facing the Liberty tonight, who are 15-3, but the Lynx are 13-3. So on par with that, and just you can start from looking at how Kayla McBride has been picking up her game. Nafisa Collier, she's just a champion anyway. Alana Smith, you just go down the line of just how the individuals are playing, but how they're playing. And it's almost like they've taken a page out of the Timberwolves handbook when it comes to their defense. Their defense this year has been spectacular, which of course ignites the offense. But when you talk about, like you just did, a group of women that maybe weren't expected to come together so fast, and then defense being the basis of it, there's so many reasons to just applaud what Cheryl Reeve and the coaching staff has done.
Yeah, and she does have a great staff. Obviously Katie Smith should be a head coach in the league. Probably will be after this year's performance by this team. Rebecca Brunson, who should be in the Hall of Fame. They have a great staff. And it's really remarkable. Again, there's only one star on this team. Now, McBride is playing her way toward that level, but she has not been in general during her career an all-star type player. She's been a nice complementary player. She's emerging as more of a star now this year. But for a team that isn't just star-packed like so many WNBA teams, that hasn't had high draft choices, like Caitlin Clark coming in to transform things, for them to be number one in three-point shooting, number one in defensive efficiency, number one in assists, it just shows you that the style of play has mattered more than name recognition.
Absolutely. And then you talk about draft picks. We've yet to see Diamond Miller really do anything. She's still out with her knee injury. So in spite of the fact that, they don't even have youth coming in to really help them, it's just spectacular. And we talk about fee all the time, but when you're averaging over 20 points a game over the last 10 games, and she doesn't look like she's slowing down. At one game last week, she had 8 steals. That's just a whole different gear that Nafisa Collier is playing at, and she's bringing the rest of the team with her. I know we always say rising tide lifts all boats, but when you see a tangible evidence of it, and it's not like she's exhausted at the end of these games that she spent and she's carried this team. That's not how it is. She's playing phenomenal basketball, but she's lifting the rest of everyone else, and they're playing synergistically right along with her. It's just like, wow, this is fun to watch.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So, as we always say, this is not just a women's sports show. We've had everybody from Mike Tirico to Jim Cott to Vikings players on. But this is just a big week for women's sports. The way the Lynx are playing, the way the Aurora's playing, they're 11-0-1 now. The gymnastics trials at Target Center, which will be very well attended. I know my wife bought every session to go over there and watch them. I'll be covering them as well. There's another event going on that you wanted to highlight today, Dawn.
Yeah, I really do. Starting on Thursday over at the U, it's the Paralympic swim trials. So it's the finals and a lot of the race to determine who's going to go to Paris. And we have Mallory Wegman, who, if you have not had a chance to see her documentary, it's called Watershed. They had it at the one of the film weekends, and I went out to see it downtown, and it was amazing. So just her as a person, if you don't know her story, local Minnesotan, she was a high school swimmer. Her back was hurting, so she was getting those shots in the back. A lot of people say, oh yeah, just go get a cortisone shot. Well, you get them in your spine. Well, it paralyzed her. So rather than living a life of blaming and this happened to me and, I was fine walking in for the shot and I was paralyzed coming out, she has built this incredible life where she has set Paralympic records left and right, has won multiple gold Paralympic medals, silver, bronze, you name it. But she not only has been married to Jay Schneider, who's amazing. They have a beautiful baby girl. And so now it's almost like when we talk about the Lynx players, these women are spectacular. They go off, they have a child, they come back, and they're like Nafisa Collier playing amazing. That is Mallory Wegman doing it after all the challenges that she has had to go through. And it wasn't just being paralyzed because of the shot. Then later on, after she even won some, she fell in a shower and injured her shoulder. And if you're a swimmer, you know how bad that is. So she's just come through all of these hurdles. So to now be on the cusp of going back and going to Paris for another Paralympics is just truly amazing. I am in awe of her. So if you have a chance, it's Thursday through Saturday over at the U. Some of the best swimmers you'll ever see in your life. It's truly tremendous.
That's fantastic. Dawn of Sports is part of TalkNorth.com. Best way to listen to this show or any show with the network. Please subscribe to your favorite podcast app. We do appreciate it. Check out Chin Music, our baseball show with Roy Smalley and Lavelle Neal. We'll have Russo on hockey, Krasinski on basketball, Jeff Diamond on football, John Millay on preps, Mike Grimm on Gophers. We have a great sports lineup, great outdoor lineup. Check it all out. We do appreciate it. We're coming to you from the Aquarius Home Services Studios. We want to thank longtime sponsor, longtime supporter of women's sports, Rudy Luther Toyota.
Ready for a women-forward car dealership? Rudy Luther Toyota empowers their many women on staff in sales, management, and service. Whether you are looking for a new Toyota or pre-owned vehicle, Rudy Luther Toyota has something for everyone. Every vehicle comes with a Luther Advantage. 10 cents off fuel and car wash discounts at holiday stations, Luther Advantage warranty, and 5-day return policy on pre-owned vehicles. Located just 5 minutes west of downtown Minneapolis, off 394 and General Mills Boulevard. And they're also hiring. Want to join the team but don't know where to start? Visit RudyLutherToyota.com today.
We'd also like to thank Bay to Bay Boat Club.
Bay to Bay Boat Club offers a limited number of season-long memberships in our private club and half-day or full-day pontoon boat rentals on Lake Minnetonka. Members have the opportunity to play on luxurious pontoon boats as well as a variety of well-appointed deck boats, speedboats, and offshore boats. Our daily pontoon boats are deluxe, custom-built boats with many amenities and comfortable seating for up to 14 people. Bay to Bay Boat Club, Country Club Boating, 24 years in business and voted Minnesota's best 3 years in a row. please visit us at betabayboatclub.com for more information. We look forward to welcoming you this summer.
And again, we're coming to you from the Aquarius Home Services Studios. So the Aurora are 11-0-1, not surprising, but impressive.
Oh, and just again, when you talk about having to wear that yoke of trying to keep that streak alive of not having a regular season loss, and I see these young women that are of college age, right? I've seen professionals buckle under something like that, but they play with reckless abandon in terms of not caring about the streak hanging over their head, and they've done it once again, a third straight year of not one regular season loss. It truly boggles my mind, and they're just having a blast out there. So I've had a chance to get to know some of the young women on the team doing some features because Fox 9 Plus carries the home games, and they're just a joy, and they love each other on the field, and it shows in their celebrations, and that they just don't want the young women that have scored the goal or on the field. They include the women sitting on the bench. They now include the fans. If you haven't had a chance to go out to see the game, it is fun. It's just infectious how these women are playing. And so now we await the playoffs. They've got 2 more road games and then the playoffs. So they're not looking ahead, but I am in terms of like fan support. You know, this team is going to go to the playoffs again and try to get that monkey off their back of, you know, not having a loss until the championship game. So that, you know, they want to get rid of that as well.
Yes, no doubt. And where can you see the Aurora play on TV?
All the Aurora home games, thank you, Jim, for asking, can be found on Fox 9 Plus. So happy to have these games broadcast and hopefully to continue it for quite some time. Give these young women a platform and show that it's really good soccer. I think you go out there and you're like, this is awesome soccer. And so who knows? They're pre-professional. Who knows if, you know, they can get up to that pro in the next few years. But it's so fun to go see their games.
Yeah, it's a blast. Absolutely. Hey, good stuff, Dawn. Looking forward to your conversation with Heather Rule. Thanks to everyone who listens. Thanks to our producer, Brandon Morton. And here's Heather.
I'm so thrilled to have Heather Rule back joining us because not only if you listen to the first time we had Heather on that we know what an accomplished author she is, in addition to sports writing and everything out and how she fits it all into her day. But recently, and I like to shine a light on especially so women that are doing so well, not only personally, but professionally, but I welcome Heather Rule to the podcast, owner of a brand new award. The Society of Professional Journalists have awarded her a first place award. It's called the 2024 Page One Awards for sports feature reporting, not only online, also in print, Minnesota Hockey Magazine. I introduce you once again to Heather Rule. Heather, thanks for joining us. We all bow before you right now.
No problem. Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm glad to be back on. This is great.
You know, you and I know each other very well. And when it comes to a woman in sports, we all know the hurdles. But when you forget all about that, the bottom line when it comes to writing is you have to honor your subjects and write true stories. And let's start with the one you won the award for, which are many stories. Your focus this winter was on the PWHL and Minnesota. What joy did that, first of all, bring to you as a hockey fan? And second of all, what do you think, you came away with the most on that?
Yeah, it was such a fun season, and it was fun to have women's hockey back in Minnesota because I had covered the Minnesota Whitecaps a few years ago when they joined the professional league at the time and won their championship and was right there along the glass when Lee Stecklein scored the overtime winning goal to win that championship. And so just to have women's hockey back here and have it at the Xcel Energy Center, have the fans, have it, be televised, I think was huge. And just for the exposure of the sport, and it just gained so much momentum this year. So it was really so much fun to cover them throughout the year. Did stories at the beginning of their season, the end of their season, did a few features, did a piece on Grace Zumwinkle, focused on her for our high school tournament preview issue before the boys state hockey tournament issue that we did. And just it was a roller coaster season for sure. I think that's the best way to describe it. They started off so well, set this attendance record, which then there were other attendance records set across the league, and had such a great month of March, played so well, went on the break, went 0-5, barely made the playoffs, needed help to get in, and then ended up winning the championship. And then it was kind of more roller coaster after the season, right after the season ended. But it was a lot of fun for sure, and I was grateful to cover it.
Before we get back to that, I just want to touch on, you did do the high school, and every time I looked, I felt like you were living at the XL Energy Center, whether it was the girls' tournament, the boys' tournament, PWHL, you were there for a couple wild games. I'm like, oh my goodness, does she have a cot somewhere in the corner? That's a misconception really that all you were doing was that, right? I mean, you were living and breathing hockey. You really should have a cot there.
Yes. Yeah, I should have. It was a lot of trips down to the X for sure between the hockey tournaments, PWHL, Wild. There was, February and March, and then the Frozen Four too, and the
goodness, I totally
had the
forgot about
face off there. So I think I was there 6 out of 8 weekends or something like that. Weird between February, March, and April. A lot of hockey down there this winter. Yeah.
Now, it's the elephant in the room. So when we talk about PWHL, we have to talk about that they won. What an amazing, it was hard fought. There was a losing stretch in the middle. Like you said, there's a lot of hurdles to overcome. They ended up winning the inaugural Walter Cup. And then kind of how the team disintegrated and fell out not even a week later. How heartbreaking, because you have to remain unbiased, but how heartbreaking is it for someone like you that, I also covered them when they were the Whitecaps in the first iteration, and we've seen these women go from high school to college, a lot of the local ones, and ride this wave. How did it feel for you to see everything go down with how they let go of Natalie Darwitz and how it just came on the heels of such a great championship? You wrote a beautiful article about it at the draft, about how some of the fans voiced their opinions. How was that for you?
Yeah, the draft was a really weird experience. I guess I would say it felt odd being there in some ways. And going into it, I wasn't sure, what kind of piece I was going to write. I wasn't going to write something kind of getting into the X's and O's of the draft and all that. I wanted to see if something developed. And then, with the Natalie Darwitz news, and when that broke, I think it was the Thursday before the draft, I saw it come across Twitter and was just shocked that, Natalie Darwitz is out as GM. And this was, a week after they won their championship. And I've always had great interactions with Natalie. She's always been, very good to me personally, very good to the media. We had the end of season media availability with, a bunch of the players, and Natalie again, made sure she's always, thanked the media for their coverage, because, and I don't say that as oh, of course, she's thanking the media. I think she recognized the importance of it too, and how it helps it's another piece that helps the sport with the exposure, and anything like that can help the sport. And so that part was really strange. It was shocking, really, to see that news. And, some of my other media counterparts, I think, were in the same boat too. And we're just kind of shocked by that. And then the way it was handled by the league. Essentially at the draft, they pretty much ignored it. They brought it up, I think, one time. There were, they had 2 hosts there for the broadcast of the draft, and they mentioned it once, that, kind of the official line was, "Oh, Natalie Darwitz and the league have parted ways." And that was booed by fans who were there at the draft in the crowd. Fans booed Coach Ken Klee, when he went up on stage to announce their first draft pick, there were a couple times, I think I heard one fan say because they were going to announce a pick, and they said, well, we picked Natalie Darwitz back as our GM. And there were two fans in particular. Yeah, I thought that was pretty
clever.
Good. There were two fans in particular. Yeah, definitely. And these fans with their couple of signs, they, it's bring back Natalie or bring back Darwitz. Ken Klee is not enough. And I think they flipped the sign over. It was like, I'm in my bring back Natalie Darwitz era or something like that. It was like a play on Taylor Swift. And so I talked to those two women, and they felt they were conflicted as well, because they had planned to go to the draft but before all of this happened, and had been supporters of the league and supporters of Natalie Darwitz too. She was part of the reason that they were so interested in the league, is when they found out that, she was going to be the general manager. So, they're not sure what to make of anything. And they're, should we renew our season tickets? They're thinking, and I've heard this from other people too about the league, like, well, do they want to move the team somewhere? Like what, because nothing much was said about this at all. And what happened, there just hasn't been anything about that. But yeah, these two women were very, very passionate, great to talk to for the story that I did. And the one quote that she said, the optics of this are horrid. And she repeated that they're horrid. And and she said that we're not alone in this. We brought the signs, but there's other people that feel the same way that we do.
Well, yes, because everyone knows that Natalie Darwitz, not only with her own decorated career and then coaching around here in the Twin Cities after, but she put her heart and soul into it in terms of like hanging banners, hands on, trying to fill the arena, doing anything she can, because she was in that grassroots of getting women's hockey on the map here in Minnesota. And to further it, not to belabor this point, but you talked about some of the boos and the awkwardness, and then, Abigail Barine being passed up, who already played on the team. I think that was a shocker. A friend of mine was there. Her daughter was drafted by New York, and she's like, we were shocked that Abby Barine didn't go to Minnesota. So, people in the know are really confused about what is going on here in Minnesota.
Yeah, that was the crazy thing too, is that, draft night happened, and it wasn't just the Darwitz news anymore. There was other things that happened that were kind of head scratchers too. Minnesota did not draft any native Minnesotans either, which, the current roster this year had plenty of Minnesota players, being the state of hockey. And yeah, Abby Barine, she went 2 picks after Minnesota had their pick, and I think it was maybe the third round. But yeah, that was she was a reserve player this year. She did really, really well for them. I think like 5 points in 9 games regular season, and, seemed to be a key contributor. And for her to not be taken, she was in pharmacy school here in Minnesota. And I think that was, kind of part of it. She wanted to stay here and, play. And, but then she was taken, I think, Montreal a couple of picks later. So that was strange. There was some controversy. Minnesota chose Britta Curl from University of Wisconsin. She's had some controversy with her social media and the things she's, posted and liked on there. So that was, there was immediately when that happened, and that pick was announced by Mayor Carter from St. Paul too. And I had tweeted out a picture about here's Mayor, just very, matter of fact, Mayor Carter announces this pick, and that kind of blew up because people were all over that, like upset about that pick. And so, yeah, with Barine and no Minnesotans, there were just, it kind of compounded the night for Minnesota beyond the Darwitz news. And it really was kind of a weird night. It just, was, I think, disappointing for fans for sure.
Well, you hit the nail on the head and called it a head scratcher. Now, I think a lot of it just wait and see how some of this all kind of, shifts down, sifts out, who is Ken Klee going to be the GM and the head coach like he first wanted, or how is it going to come into play? So I think we all just kind of wait and see. But I want to shift gears a little bit and ask you about being a young woman trying to make your way as a sports writer in this town, and then to get this accolade, this award, first place. First of all, how did that make you feel? And maybe what kind of advice do you have to like young women, especially so, but young writers, journalists that just want to get into sports, that you have to just kind of keep plugging along?
Yeah. Well, it was, first of all, with the award, it was, I don't know. I was surprised to get first place, I guess, if I'm being honest.
No, she earned it.
Thank you. But no, I've submitted for those awards before, and they choose a top 3 in the categories and notify you that, hey, you're a winner of one of the top 3. And, they have this Page One Awards banquet. And so they kind of go through the categories pretty quickly and announce the first place awards. And yeah, it felt really nice. I was sitting at a table actually with one of my really good friends, and she was a reporter in Austin, Minnesota at my first job. Her and we were reporters together, and she works at a paper in southeastern Minnesota now. And so she was there too. So that was kind of fun to reconnect with her. And so I went and got my award and, got to come back to the table and see her with a big smile on her face, because I knew she was happy for me. And so that was really nice. Those awards too, the thing that I realized too was it was something that I've kind of taken ownership of on my own, making sure that, okay, if this is something I want to put in for, I'm, going to do it myself and submit and kind of look through the year and look at my list, look at my color-coded spreadsheet of stories that I keep track of that I've written, and kind of figure out which might be some good ones to submit. So I was glad I did it. I'm glad I've done it before too. And it's just, it's nice to, I think I posted this on one of my socials. It's not expected, but it's appreciated. It's nice to get the recognition. It makes you feel like you're, in the right spot, and,
and doing good work.
You have to have a passion for this job. Yes. Yeah. And you have to have a passion for this job. It takes a lot. It takes a lot of time and effort and work. And especially with freelancing, where you're just kind of always hustling and always trying to, make sure you have all these different irons in the fire with different outlets to make sure you're getting work. And you never know. You asked about advice too. I mean, you never know what's going to lead to something else, and what might, it could be something as small as sharing something on social media or interacting with someone else's post or complimenting them on their work. I mean, you never know, that could lead to, hey, I want to talk to you on this podcast, or I want to, let's talk further. I really like your stuff. I want, I'm looking for a writer for this. I covered the state baseball championships over the weekend. That was, a new outlet I hadn't written for before, but, I'd been around the beats and had a connection. And so it's definitely, I probably talked about this the first time too. It's networking is huge. It's all about, the connections, because you never know what's going to lead to something later down the road, even if there's not something immediately. So it's, just networking and just keep hustling and have the passion for it, because I think that's, I don't know, all roads kind of lead back to the same place then, if you really like what you're doing.
Oh, absolutely. And I want to maybe end on this topic, and this might shock people. And this is one thing many things I love about your passion for sports is you love IndyCar. You love IndyCar. It is a passion. How did that come about?
Yes, IndyCar racing. So that
Here's
pretty much
laughing when I'm calling you out. Like sweet Heather Rule. She loves that IndyCar.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, that I've been pretty much around my whole life because my dad has been a fan pretty much his whole life. He listened to the radio broadcasts of the Indy 500 since he was like 5 years old. Back when, races weren't on TV, and then, they were on TV later on like a tape delay or whatever it was. And then, finally the live races, and we've been to a few of them together. We go to, there's a really good road course in Wisconsin, Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, called Road America. And we've been there a lot. That was kind of, I've said sometimes it's sort of like our cabin in a way, like Minnesota, so many people, we're going to the cabin. Road America for us was kind of, that was our big, it was just a weekend, but that was our kind of summer trip for a lot of years. They used to have it in August, the race. And so that's, it's so fun to be there in person too. And we've been to some other tracks. We went out to Long Beach one year. We've been to Iowa. There's a track in mid-Ohio. So we've been to a few of them and just love to watch them on TV too. So it's something that has been, I've just always kind of been a fan of it. And it's always been really fun to, follow it along with my dad and kind of have that really common interest between us.
The strange thing is people, how do you know anything about it, Dawn? And when I was working in Milwaukee, I actually did the Track Attack Racing School with Juan Pablo Montoya. And, it was interesting because we had to take a course. You had to sign a waiver saying that if something happens and you die, it's your fault. And that kind of was like, what? Yes. And then the spec car that I drove had an X transmission, so you couldn't downshift. But let me tell you, once I got up to 110 and went around a couple of chicanes, I was hooked. I was like, this is pretty good. Pretty good. I drove a NASCAR once before, and it's so loud. I was in the back of Richard Petty. He took us around the track, and it was kind of like, I feel like I was glued to the back of the car because on NASCAR, and it was so loud. It smelled like gas, totally different from, doing a spec car. More so on the other, more if you call it genteel side of the Indy side, but so yeah, really cool. And then when I was in Chicago, so cool. We did a show called Victory Lane. Pete Pistone, if anyone's in the racing world, he probably knows that name. So I got to meet a lot of them, but the only one that I really thought was really super cool was driving like a spec Indy car, So yes, I have full respect. So that is awesome. Heather, you never cease to amaze me.
I've never driven one.
Oh, yeah. This was not a full-on Indy car.
You got me beat there. Well, but I've never even, driven. I've sat in an Indy car before at the Indy Museum at Indianapolis. But yeah, it would be cool. Mario Andretti, there's like a 2-seater Indy car that Mario Andretti drives someone around in, like usually before the races. So that would be really cool to be in that. But yeah, and just Juan Pablo Montoya, Richard Petty, those guys are. They're legends. So
they're legends.
Montoya won the Indy 500. Yeah.
Maybe that's on your list. I can't wait to see the byline, Heather Rule, with one of them coming from the Indy 500. So, well, thank you so much for your time, and congratulations. You are making waves, and you're also creating a way. And I want to applaud you for that.
Thank you so much. And I appreciate you so much. I've told you so many times too, but all the work that you're doing with your podcast and your unscripted show, just showcasing so many athletes and women and people in the business, and just talking about our business and just kind of, the ins and outs and everything, and just the way you celebrate women and highlight women. It's really special. And I hope you're proud of the work that you're doing, because I'm really proud that, we're friends, and just everything that you're doing. It's great. And I hope you keep it up, because you're amazing.
Oh, Heather, thank you so much. Well, thank you for coming on, everyone. If you want to follow any of her stories, she is the brand new first place winner for the Society of Professional Journalists, or since I've been watching Bridgerton, the High Royal Society of Professional Journalists, gentle readers. And you will love, love, love Heather's work. Heather Rule, thank you so much.